So, welcome back. Today we will be talking about how to write the introduction chapter. Remember, we have 5 chapters in the thesis. So, when you are following the instructions provided, the outline provided, we have the introduction chapter, literature review chapter, methodology, results, and discussion. And for the introduction, what we are doing here is that this is not a very long chapter. You are introducing your research topic. And the outline that is recommended, we will check 2 introduction chapters after my presentation. You don't need to go by the book. You can have different names for those subsections. But it would be good if you start with some background. Then you provide the motivation, as it was shared in some of the presentations. When we talk about motivation, we are not only talking about your personal motivation, but we are talking about motivation for the society, for the industry, for a specific company, if you are doing the thesis for your company. And of course, finally, for yourself as a student. Why is that topic important for these different levels? After that, we come to the research questions. It's important that you present the research questions as a separate subsection, because then for the reader, it's easy to spot. And as readers, as evaluators, we are interested in finding your research questions as easily as possible, because that's all. The research questions will guide everything what you do. At the very end, in the results chapter, we'll check, have you answered those research questions? So when we read the results chapter, we go back to your research questions and try to see, are there answers to the questions? That's important. And as again shared, structure of the thesis is good to share because then the reader can know, okay, she will expect in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th chapters. So that's a suggestion for the outline of the introduction chapter. Now, we said that the introduction chapter is important for the reader to decide whether she or he is interested to read the rest of the thesis or not. You can bore the reader so badly that they'll just stop reading. So here the idea is not to provide everything to the reader, but to increase the interest of the reader. You provide the basics, and in doing that, we are talking about, I put here 5 to 8 pages. So if I see an introduction chapter 1 page, I don't think that you cover the motivation, the background. You can cover the research questions, you can cover the structure of the thesis, but I don't think the background and the motivation will be covered. So it is very important that you support your reasoning with proper citations. So already in the introduction chapter, I am after seeing citations from the very first page. So if you are providing a background about why is this topic important, what is making you interested in doing research about this topic, it needs to be supported by academic citations and also citations from news. So trade news, if you are going to be doing a thesis about, let's say, immigrant entrepreneurship, and if you've heard in the news that Finland has challenges in promoting immigrant entrepreneurship, that is a very good justification why Sachin is interested in doing a thesis on immigrant entrepreneurship. If you find nice statistics about how many immigrants have been coming over to Finland, and out of those, for example, how many have been able to, or how many have been interested to establish own businesses, but at the end, how many have actually succeeded? If you have some nice statistics, and if you show us that, okay, only a very small percentage of immigrant entrepreneurs are able to realize their dreams in Finland, then I'm convinced that this is an issue which needs to be solved, and Sachin, with his research, may contribute to the solution. So providing not only here, we are not only talking about academic literature, but we are also talking about news in the media which justify that there is a need for this kind of research.
What about conferences and seminars?
Well, definitely, if you find a conference paper, that is also nice. In terms of the relevance, of course, articles are more valuable compared to some conference proceedings. But if you find something, of course, that's fine. That's not a bad idea. Now, when you are talking about motivation, here I am putting down at least 3 levels of motivation, and that's also in our criterion. If you remember, so when we are assessing this introduction chapter, we will be looking mostly at criterion number 1. Let us remember criterion number 1. So here, introduction, choice of topic, and approach. So justification, choice of topic, that is the first criterion. So I am now looking at Yao Ming, who is going to be doing his thesis about a problem at the company that he is working. So if he writes in the introduction chapter a very good justification saying that, you know, our company has this problem, and this doing this research and providing answers to the research questions will solve my company's problem, I will go and look at my criteria, and I will say that, well, Yao Ming's thesis for this criterion deserves the grade of 3, which says the choice of topic is justified from the viewpoint of developing the commissioning party's organization working life. So if Yao Ming is interested to get the grade of 5, even though he will be solving a problem of his company, he needs to think, is this problem only for my company, or is this problem something that is common to other similar companies in Finland, out of Finland? If we think that his company is working in the field of B2B, business to business, is it only a problem for B2B companies, or is it also valid for B2C companies, manufacturing companies, service companies? So he needs to think from a broader perspective whether this problem can be important for a broader, let's say, industry or society. Because for getting the grade of 5, I will read straight, the choice of topic is justified for the professional field from the viewpoint of significance, working life reformation, value of new research, or wider social importance. Sometimes we have theses that are done to solve a problem at a company, and then the student is also coming to us and saying that, oh, some of the information here may be confidential, I don't want to publish this part, or my employer doesn't want to publish this part. If that is the case, for this criterion, you can be sure that you don't get anything more than 3. That's the, you know, because why are you doing the thesis? Okay, you contribute to your company, but you need to also be contributing to a broader audience who will read your thesis. Sachin, you have a question?
Yeah, let's say my topic, immigrant entrepreneurship. I'm covering the society as well, but I think it's in the favor of beneficial of the society. And later on, I asked not to publish. Then I'm covering all those 3 criteria. I'm not publishing it.
So, good, let's say, example by Sachin, who said that my topic, the immigration entrepreneurship, immigrant entrepreneurship topic, which may be beneficial, you know, you come up with some findings from Finland concerning the restaurant business, and then you don't want to publish it, you know, you want to start your own business, but you don't want other immigrants to start their own businesses. Well, that's very selfish of you. You don't get 5.
It has to be published.
So this is only serving you, not not anybody else. So in that case, you don't even get 3.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, make sure that in your motivation, you provide motivations at different levels, okay? And I do not think that there is a problem which is only specific to a single company. So you need, here we are talking about your text, how you present the problem in the text is, because that's what we are reading. I can guess that the problem for Yao Ming's company is also important for other companies. But if he doesn't put it into writing, we only evaluate what we read. So even though it may be the best of the topics, the choice is an excellent choice, but then Yao Ming has not, you know, written about this choice, why is it important, then he doesn't get the grade. You know, the title can be very exciting, but if we don't read it in the text in the introduction, why it is exciting, then you don't earn the point. So it's the text that matters. Don't forget to also mention the relevance of the topic for you. Why at a personal level? That is the 3rd level. So broader industry level motivation, company level motivation if there is a company, and then finally, remember also the motivation at your personal level.
Society and government comes together or different? Because mine is government, society, and people.
That's the society, that's the...
Is it possible to have a motivation at the level of the industry, the company, when you don't have any?
You don't have any motivation to get the degree. My motivation is to get the degree.
You can write, my motivation is to get the credits.
I need this. I need this. Now, research questions. So we have been talking about this, and we have been already going through this process that maximum, I would say, 2 questions. You may have 1 main question and maybe 2 supporting questions, but what does supporting question mean? It means that to answer the main question, you first answer the supporting questions, and as a result, indirectly, you answer the main question, okay? So main and supporting questions, if that is how you present your questions, should not be independent of each other. I should be able to see logically that by answering the supporting questions, the main question will be answered. Otherwise, as we saw in the case of Sachin, if you think about the title, I start wondering what's the relevance. Of course, I know the history of this discussion of understanding how the challenges of immigrant entrepreneurs are different than those of local entrepreneurs. You know, that could be a different thesis topic. So the more we think, the better we realize that maybe that's not needed. And that section, when you present your research questions, make sure that you do not end it there with the research questions. Briefly tell us, write about how you are going to answer those questions. Because if we go to our evaluation criteria, we see that one of the criteria is definition of development research tasks of the thesis. Now, of course, we have a methodology chapter, chapter 3, where you will explain in more detail your research approach, how you collect data, how you analyze the data, etc., etc. But you can also refer in this chapter 1.3, research questions section. After the questions, tell briefly, okay, to answer these questions, following the literature review, I will use as my theoretical framework, blah, blah, blah. In the empirical study, I pursue a qualitative research approach and collect data from, let's say in the case of Sachin, from restaurant entrepreneur, immigrant restaurant entrepreneurs in Finland. And then, you briefly tell what you will do, how you will answer those questions, and at the end, more detailed information about the research approach, data collection, and analysis is available in the methodology chapter in chapter 3. Okay? So remember in the introduction, something very brief about how you will answer the research questions.
Talking about the structure of the thesis, the level of the methodology you mentioned now.
In the structure of the thesis, you very briefly tell about chapter 2 reviews the relevant literatures on XYZ, and the theoretical framework is presented, but there you do not mention what is the theoretical framework. You only mention what will come in chapter 2, what will come in chapter 3. So in the outline of the thesis, you will say in chapter 3 the methodology will be reviewed, but you do not say there that you pursued a qualitative research approach or a quantitative research. You don't explain there. It's the outline of the thesis. So what the reader will read in chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. In general, not in detail. No. Outline of the thesis is the headlines of the chapters. There are very good examples. We will go through some of them soon, how you can do that. So we already went through the two criterion in between, delineation of the topic. So how well you have been able to focus your research questions. Is it too broad? That is what we are going to be looking at. And definition and specification of thesis objectives. Have the objectives been delineated, defined clearly? So we are talking about section 1.3. Before you come to the research questions, start with the objectives. So this research aims to do the following. So you have the background, motivation, and then the objectives which lead to the questions. You can even name section 1.3 research objectives and questions.
Do we quote research like books?
Well, do we quote books? So, of course, you can quote books. In terms of academic significance, academic value, articles are of higher academic value. Books, which are written especially for teaching purposes. So you can, from our library, if you take out
Objectives like research questions, like in order to get the answer or get delineating,
do you need citations?
yes. Yes.
Do we need citations for delineating the topic? If there is, why not? If there is not, there is not. But not necessarily. When we talked about citations, don't even dream of citing anything from Wikipedia. I may be telling this. I know you are laughing at this, but I've seen recent theses with Wikipedia.
Oh my gosh.
So
That guy was on Living Moon, I believe.
and sometimes in the outline, a figure can be impressive. So when you have a figure, chapter 1, chapter 2, don't mention chapter 1 there because the reader has already read chapter 1. So we are interested in the rest of the thesis. So sometimes a figure can be interesting. Now this is the presentation in brief. Introduction chapter is quite a brief chapter. Now, I would like to look at two example introduction chapters. The first one is from the thesis of Nina Poranen. I think we have already looked at this thesis a number of times related to the literature review. And you may remember the topic itself, enabling bioeconomy-related new business development in central Finland. I think you will all be experts of this thesis when we go through all the chapters.
You have a by-hearted thesis.
This is a good thesis.
Yeah.
This is a good one, so that's why I'm sharing with you. Now, immediately looking at the structure of chapter 1, what we see is that this is not following the book, right?
Yeah.
The only thing what I see is common, of course, it's following the book actually. There are 4 sections mostly. Structure of the thesis, research questions, and motivation for the research. That's by the book. But the first one, background, it's environments and challenges. So it's I would say mostly by the book, except for the first subsection. And if we look at the number of pages, so it's starting on page 3, ending on page 11, so 8 pages, so more or less in line with the suggestions. So what we see here, I think the first paragraph is a general introduction. This research is about blah, blah, blah. So it is very shortly introducing what, as a reader, we should expect. And also it is introducing the field of bioeconomy in Finland. So who are the key stakeholders related to the field of bioeconomy in central Finland. So we see here a very short paragraph, a short introduction, no citations, question mark. And here, that's also good. Immediately, the research explores what these different organizations think of bioeconomy and the related opportunities for new business development. So if you think about the title, bioeconomy, new business opportunities, new business development opportunities in bioeconomy field, and here I already as a reader get some idea of what this is about. This is very nice. And if we think about the background, environments and challenges, what we see here, and that's a good suggestion, start from the very general and go more to the specific for the background. So here, environments and challenges, she starts from the world is running out of natural resources. So already we understand what's the problem from, it's a societal problem, right? When you hear the world is running out of resources, you know, there is the warning that this is something important for the society. And here, good thing, we start to see citations. So this is more general information. These are not academic citations. So she has used citation from OECD. The most important likely results would be increasing water scarcity, resource bottlenecks, air and water pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss, which would be irreversible. So what are the consequences that may happen? And here, as you see, the sources are not academic. OECD, some statistics. Then, from the general level, she is narrowing it down to the European Union. So, scarcity of natural resources, what the European Union is thinking, is considering as response to solve the challenge. So we come down from the world to the European Union and some facts about the European Union, and then she is narrowing it further down. Here we come to Finland. So challenge for the world, European Union, Finland, and then she will come to central Finland. So it's the bioeconomy, exactly. Start from the general level and slowly narrow it down. So if we think about the case of Yao Ming, he would be starting off the problem at a general level and then slowly come down to his company level. If we think about the case of Sachin, immigrant entrepreneurship is not only a problem of Finland, right? You know, people are traveling all around the world. We have lots of immigrants, you know, all around the world. And Finland is not the country which is accepting most of the immigrants. So it's not a problem of Finland only. So if you start this problem only from Finland's perspective, well, that's not the full picture, right? You should start immigrant entrepreneurship as a general problem in the world, then come to the specific, the situation in Finland. So we go down. So this is the good flow that I would recommend for all the introduction chapters. Start from general and come down to the more specific, to the context that you will be looking at. check the AMP reporting instructions. Is it this way that you write figure 1? You know, some minor things that we need to be careful about. So from Finland, she's moving down to the Finnish forest cluster here as the background. And then comes the motivation. And here in the motivation, what we see is that the focus is more on Finland now. So she starts with Finland's strategy for bioeconomy in general. And we see here for the motivation now very good support from academic literature as well. As you see, we have a number of academic citations here. Remember what we discussed? Key personal motivation. So now if we think about the bioeconomy, she's not working for the bioeconomy. When she did this thesis, she was not employed at the bioeconomy cluster. So this was not done for her company, but she has the personal motivation. So what is it that interested you to do this thesis? So Yao Ming, why is this relevant for you? Something to think about. You'll solve your company's problem, probably, hopefully. But why is this also important for you? That is something to think about. And then comes the research questions. You remember this, right? We discussed this already earlier. Too many sub-questions. So has the topic been delineated well? It raises some question marks, as there are too many sub-questions. And remember my earlier comment? She's leaving it there. There is no mentioning of how she is planning to answer those research questions. So as an evaluator, I need to go and read the methodology chapter. Well, I do that, yes. But it would be good to write here before 1.4 how you will answer, what kind of an empirical study you are planning to do to answer the research questions, and to mention there that you can read in detail in the methodology chapter. So here, what we see is literary review in chapter 2. So the literature review presents firstly the research relevant concepts, definitions, and explores collective business development through different perspectives. And thirdly, the theoretical framework for the research is presented. So coming back to Colette's question, you don't tell here what is the theoretical framework. You just write that it is presented in chapter 2. So quite brief, but quite convincing. Some issues may be related to delineation of the concepts in terms of the research questions, but otherwise a good introduction chapter. Now, as a second case, I will take a look at the thesis of Johanna Valkeinen. Have you looked at this before? I think yes.
Yeah, we have.
You remember this one. So how can companies increase the online trust of potential customers? Okay, that's the research question and also the title of the thesis. Now looking at the introduction chapter, the outline, we see another 8-page long introduction chapter, fine. But we see that the subtitles, the sub-chapters are named not according to the book, right? So companies rush to enter social media. Customers expect to see companies in social media. Customers and potential customers have increased marketing power. Online reviews and recommendations gain trust over advertisement campaigns. Research questions. Good that there is research questions. You know, I was worried because if you don't have the research questions, then as an evaluator, if I have difficulties to find what are the research questions, you know, you are in trouble. So it's good that at least the research questions are there. So I don't know what is the logic in the first four, you know.
When it was done in 2015.
Let's have a look. I don't remember by heart. 2015, yes. 3.5 years ago. Time is passing fast. Don't ask anything about time, Sashi. So let's have a look at the introduction chapter. Now the good thing here is that already from the start, we see a diversity of literatures. That's the good thing. The bad thing is that citations are made wrongly. I mean, P.30, she's trying to mean page 30 over here, but that's not how we make the citation according to YAML reporting instruction. We don't have any P's. And then we don't have any commas. We shouldn't have any commas after the names. Okay? And better use and than this. So that's the reporting instructions mistake. But otherwise, the background as it starts is quite good. It's telling us why the thesis research topic is important, and that's supported nicely by variety of literatures. So let's move slowly in the chapter. So again, we see some figures, statistics, and then here we see benefits of social media marketing. Illustrations, as we know, are good for making the text more reader-friendly. So make use of illustrations, but not at a reasonable level. Don't get the reader feel like we are trying to fill up space with lots of figures. Think whether the figure makes sense to use. And the literature here is very nicely integrated. So very good introduction chapter in the sense of integrating the literatures. Again, we see another figure over here. A nice figure. But the thing is, now we've been reading so much. Where is the main theme of the? What's the main theme of the? It's about social media. So if you think about these subsections, companies rush to enter social media. Customers expect to see companies in social media. So these two are almost the same. Customers and potential customers have increased marketing power. Okay. Let's look at the title of the thesis. How can companies increase the online trust of potential customers? The core of the question is about online trust of potential customers. We want to increase that, right? And so far, we have had 3 sections, nothing about trust. And that trust comes at a, let's say, relatively late stage here in section 1.4, and that is, so here this is 1.3, 1.4, and that is kind of brief. If we look at it, is less than a page. So the main theme, online trust, well, it's there, but it's very brief, comes late, and less than a page. So make sure that you are not just telling us a lot of words, but make sure that you are telling the right words about the topic of your thesis. So this is what we are trying to say when we are saying go deep in a narrow subject. So social media, its importance, okay, but then what's the problem with online trust? That's where you would be going deeper. So in this thesis, we see already this kind of there's a lot of text about the general, but the core thing, it remains a bit shallow. So that could be a stronger section 1.4. Then we have the research questions. And she has one main research question with 2 supporting questions. One is for the individuals, and one is it's the same, right? So A and B supporting questions are kind of the same. What factors influence individuals' online behaviors? What are the online trust factors that companies can influence? A bit overlapping, if not necessarily the same, a bit overlapping. But the good thing here is, okay, we get some idea what she is going to do. The good thing here is that she's telling us how she is aiming to answer those questions. So after the questions, we see what the thesis is aiming for. Then she has here that the thesis will use the framework by an existing framework from Salo and Karyolotos, model of trust in the online environment. So she explains that she will use a framework that exists in the literature. But then she doesn't tell us. So far, so good. She tells the model, but then she doesn't tell us. She jumps immediately to the outline of the thesis here. She doesn't tell us how she will, using that framework, answer the questions. What will be the empirical study like? Is she going to use a quantitative approach, qualitative approach? She skips that and goes directly into the outline of the thesis. So the outline of the thesis is under research questions. So that is also something which could be a separate section. But I think hopefully you have an understanding or you have an idea now about what should be included in the introduction chapter. Now you have in front of you, I am assuming now November is finishing, maybe there are some still assignments you need to do from some courses. That can be the case. But hopefully you will have time before our next seminar. And our next seminar will be on on February, I think it's February the 7th. So if I check here, the schedule for the spring, so our next seminar will be on Thursday, on February the 7th.
The same day of submission of
Well, by coincidence. So what we are going to do in the spring, now you have assumably, hopefully you will catch up. So use these 2 months time, use it well to catch up, finish your literature review chapter. Let's make that at least your target by February the 7th. But I am also hoping that those of you who are at a, let's say, more advanced level already have started, like for example, I know that Colette has already written the introduction chapter as well, also Sachin and Ehsan. So also in the light of the discussions we had today, make some, if needed, adjustments, revisions for your introduction chapter. And those of you who are, on the way, don't stop with your literature review chapter. Also write your introduction chapter. So I'm hoping that in our seminar on February the 7th, maybe we will have some presentations of literature review chapters. I think we don't need any more presentations by Sachin, Ehsan, or Colette. You just upload when your literature review chapters are at their best. And let me know by email, because in Optima, I don't recognize when somebody is uploading something. So let me know also by email, and I will read. And if okay, I'll book your 7 ECTS from Master Thesis Part 1.
Sir, are you available? I mean, because you are going to in New York, or no, you have in December and January.
So I'm available tomorrow and next week, and then I'll be away for a week. But we continue to work until December the 21st. Then we have 2 weeks of holiday, and then January the 7th we come back to work, and then I'm available.
Sir, for that 2 weeks, I mean, for December 7th, are you replying with
No, I'm not replying anything.
Because the 7th of the, okay, that's, okay.
The target for the spring is that so we will be also covering the methodology chapter during the spring. So the target is that by the end of the spring 2019, you will have your literature review, introduction, and methodology chapters ready. So the target is to write also the methodology chapter. And you will be earning another 5 ECTS when you have your introduction and methodology chapters ready. We will end, so 14th of March will be the next meeting. And then finally, we have the last meeting in the last week of April. That's going to be April the 25th. And then we will be also looking at how to write the results chapter. So the last session in April, I will have 1 hour for how to write the results chapter. Hopefully, the summer of 2019, you will be, if you haven't started earlier, starting to collect your empirical data for your thesis, and then using the summer to at least start writing your results chapter. So we will be going through how to collect data, how to analyze data. So when we are going to go through writing the methodology chapter, I will be also showing you some examples of how to collect and how to analyze different types of data. You may have gone through these in your methodology courses, like qualitative research methods, quantitative research methods, but I'll just go through some basic things which may be of help. Any questions? I see no questions in that respect. Thanks for joining, and I wish you all